Tatis showed us his tatis, and I liked it.
Do you think that he's somebody who, obviously he's conscious of how hot he is. Do you think he plays into it? Is he being a little cheeky
That's a Capricorn
bastard?
man. Absolutely.
Okay.
But he tries to act coy, like he doesn't know.
He acts like he doesn't give a fuck.
Yeah, he's like, I guess I'm good looking, like people say I'm good looking. And I guess that's true. People say if I'm good looking, then I'm good looking. Happy Hispanic Heritage Month.
Literally.
By the way. That's why we're talking about tatis.
Hi. Welcome back to Empaths Anonymous, and I'm Christina.
I'm Danie, usually.
On the good days.
On the good days.
And happy Hispanic Heritage Month. Ba-da-da. I don't know what the ba-da-das are coming from.
I don't know. I was getting jazzy with it, though.
You know what it reminds me of in The Simple Life when they go ba-da-da, ba-da-da.
We have heard rumors in the rumor mill. They're milling in the rumors that Kayla and Liv of Love Island USA are getting some type of Simple Life reboot, remake.
Yeah.
Something. Nothing I ever asked for, nothing I ever wanted. And during Hispanic Heritage Month?
Right. Because they did the farmhouse photo shoot. They were redoing that. And then they were like working in a food truck or something like that.
Oh, they worked at Pink's.
At Pink's, that's what it was.
Wasn't it hot dogs?
Hot dog stand. Yeah.
Wieners. Come get your wieners.
I mean, if they're the two perfect girls to be serving some wieners. Anyway, the point of this episode is we are going to be diving into Latin music and some of the women that are popping off and are bringing so much significance and power to the Hispanic community through their music. But first, what's in your cup? What's in your cup, chingona?
You guys, there's such a funny story behind this word. She had to change it because she was so freely using puta. She's a puta. And I'm like, oh my God.
I thought it meant bitch.
What did my mom say it meant? Like, it's C-U-N-T, right? But in Spanish, kind of. It's just more derogatory.
Okay.
And so see, I always thought it was, I mean, the way that English word is actually making a comeback and being used differently by the gays and the theys.
Oh, yeah. We're surfing.
Yes. I think that's going to change over probably the next 10 years and people in the US are going to use it differently. But like for my mom, who is someone who grew up in the 80s, the C word was like the worst word that you could call another woman.
Right.
Anyway. Yeah, she just used to say puta a lot. And I'm like, oh, practicing your Spanish.
Did I that much?
No, it wasn't really.
That's funny. Well, I was just under the impression that it did not mean the severity. It didn't have the severity that it does. I thought that it literally was like funny. A transition for bitch.
Chingonas. Yeah, I actually didn't even intend to show up like this today. It's just been kind of a long day. And this jacket is actually Christina's. So
it is. Thrifted Jupiter Blue Vintage. You can't find me on Instagram anymore, but if you can find me on Depop.
If you know, you know.
Yeah, if you had to be there to be there.
It'll be revived one day.
I think so. I was just talking about this with somebody. I don't remember who it was.
I believe it to be true.
Oh, it was my friend. Anyway.
My pal.
My chum. My little chummy chum. What is in your cup?
What's in my cup today is let me show the camera.
Very on brand for today.
De la calle, tepache. Órale.
How do you say spice in Spanish?
Spice. Piña. Piña. Oh, yeah. Pineapple spice. I think I know this. Spice. ¿Cómo se dice? Spice. I know this. It'll come to me later on.
Okay.
Anyway, it's pineapple spice flavor of tepache. And we're down to the last two.
I know. So sad.
So sad. Dear De La Calle. Coming to you live from the Empaths and On Pod. I would dream, if I had, it would be dangerous to have a partnership with these guys. It truly would.
How many calories?
Would I love
How many calories are there?
45.
That's not bad.
Only 45.
Compared to other things we're
fermented. It's made out of pineapple rinds and fermented, and it's delicious, y'all.
It's really, really pineapple rinds are really
so
good for your gut.
Organic, non-GMO, vegan, low calorie, gluten-free, soy-free, and high in vitamin C.
Amen.
Sorry, it's checking the sugars.
Yeah. Did we sign
only
up?
5.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
that's not bad. We did not sign up for the whatchamacallit, but we got a whole case.
Oh, yeah. Not the subscription yet, but it's on its way. We know it is.
It's hefty, though. It's like $45.
It is. You can save a little bit depending on how often you're getting it.
Yeah.
So it should really
But then you're spending more money because you're getting it more often.
Yeah.
That's how they get ya.
That's how they get you. Yeah, I think the more spaced out one is still once a month, which is a lot.
Yeah.
Okay, but yeah, that's in my physical, literal cup. In my figurative cup, I was earlier today feeling like a schlump on a log, but getting back into the groove of things, being on this green velvet couch for a while, speaking to some awesome people, just letting out my thoughts. Got me into a better mood, I think.
We learned how to spell zhuzh today.
We learned how to spell zhuzh, yeah. That's really it. I mean, I'm chilling. Like, I got to get ready for the week.
Yeah.
And so I am present, and I'm here to have a good time and talk about music.
That's
how I'm showing up.
Yes. Okay.
What's in your cup, sister?
So I made a mocktail. It is coconut.
Cheers.
Cheers. We both actually have pineapple. We didn't plan that. Very fitting, though. It is coconut water, pineapple, mango juice. They didn't have just regular pineapple. And half a sip of a wine cooler. What is that from?
Half a sip of a wine cooler.
If you guys know, you know.
Was it Margot Robbie?
No, it was from a really, really old YouTube video back in the day. Like one of the first, when YouTube first started. You know, when it was more sketchy?
Yes.
And it was like these guys that were playing girls, like middle school or like high school girls, talking about drinking for the first time, going to parties. And like, I had half a sip of a wine cooler. I don't remember the name of the video, otherwise I bring it up. And then, yeah, half of a Nixie. Sorry, all of that to say. Half of a lime, a ginger lime Nixie. It tastes like an agua fresca. It's very mindful, very demure, very mocktail. I'm not like these other girls. I'm not out here drinking alcohol on a Sunday night.
No, I've got shit to do tomorrow. What's that influencer's name? Ziggy, who I sent to you the other day, who was making his picture of Jamaica. He's like, I'm not rich, but I'm rich.
Yes.
Because he was making a huge picture of Jamaica.
Yes.
And that's Christina's favorite, which
is
not a lot of people's favorite. Actually, most of the go-to is usually horchata.
I know.
Or the pepino.
Oh, I do like that one too, though. It depends on my mood. Yeah. In my life cup, I have not had a show take up this much space in my brain since the first time I watched The Summer I Turned Pretty.
You have to inform me because you and my mom were talking about it, but I don't even know what you guys are talking about.
Okay. So I'm watching. So I put out a bat signal on my stories asking for give me some books.
I do
give me some music, give me some new shows. And I had 4 people reply, tell me lies. Then it was the premiere of the second season was like this week or like last week.
Oh.
And Sierra Ramirez, I love her.
From the Fosters.
Oh. She put it on her story that she was watching. Alex Cooper put on her story that she was watching. Christian Serratos put on her story. And I'm like, I love all these women. I guess that they have great taste.
Yeah.
I started watching it with no expectations of what it's actually about.
Right.
I literally Hulu, click, play.
Okay.
Didn't watch the trailer or anything.
Oh, surprise attack.
Yeah. And so it first started playing and it was really giving like After. It was giving a fan fiction that was adapted into a TV show.
Oh.
And so like the first episode, even the first 2 episodes, I was very skeptical. I'm like, oh, this is just going to be another stupid teeny bopper, like whatever type of show that just has a bunch of sex for no reason. A virgin girl meets a guy, meets the bad boy, meets dark Harry Styles, and have a lot of sex.
Okay.
But then they get ya. They reel you in. It's literally a show about being with a narcissist.
Okay.
And it's bad. In my opinion, this show is more triggering than It Ends With Us.
Wow.
So I don't know. I think it would be great content for the pod because talking about mental health and narcissism and the main girl and the guy have a very toxic trauma bond because they both have mommy issues. You like learn that later in the show.
Okay.
But I literally watched the first season and like the first 3 episodes of the second season in 2 days, maybe 3.
Wow. How long are the episodes?
An hour-ish. An hour
each.
Wow.
Okay.
I understand the hype.
Okay.
It's giving me like not necessarily like the vibe of Euphoria, but the viralness and the like. I need to know what happens next.
Okay.
And it also kind of is like reminiscent of How to Get Away with Murder type of vibe too. Like they're all in a college, and this isn't a spoiler because it's like I think that they have this in the trailer. In the very first episode, somebody dies, and so like you're finding out all these things. So it kind of gives that. It's very suspenseful, but it's the first couple episodes are deceiving because you just think it's going to be about just this naive blonde freshman
into college,
freshman
doesn't
in
know
college,
which way's left
like
or which
very
way's down.
yes, who's gonna get manipulated by this guy, which she does, but like it was not as lighthearted and juvenile, I guess, as the first couple episodes make it feel.
Oh, I see.
Because once you get into it, you're like, oh shit, this is intense. The way it's depicted is very realistic, a little too realistic. And it's probably one of the, besides Nate Jacobs from Euphoria, it is probably the worst villain in a show that I literally want to punch him in the face. Makes me terrified of all men. Like bad. Batshit. So that's what's been on my brain for the last 72 hours.
Yeah. Wow.
That
I
and
heard you...
short and sweet.
Oh, yeah.
Because the last 2 weeks, it's been on repeat.
Let's get into our Brina. I love it. It took me like probably 2 to 3 days to really get into all the songs. There are definitely some that I like more than others. And there are a lot more like slow, chilled out songs on this one, I think. But that's still, you got to listen to the lyrics. She's a lyricist.
Yeah. I only know a couple of the songs from her last album, like the popular ones like Nonsense and Feather and whatever. Yeah. I do feel like I like this vibe a lot more. It's giving like pop star meets Dolly Parton. It's like very pin-up-y, the visuals for it.
Yeah.
It's giving very Playboy in the 70s.
It does give 70s vibes.
Yeah.
Perfect release time too.
Yeah.
Really good summer album.
Right, but like end of summer going into fall.
Yeah, I can appreciate that. Well,
that's in the cups.
That's it for the tazas.
That is in the cups.
Oh, we should have practiced it in Spanish.
What?
What's in your cup? Something taza. I know taza. What's in tu taza? What's in tu taza? ¿Qué hay en tu taza?
¿Qué hay en tu taza?
Okay. But all that aside, today is really special, fun. We wanted to do something a little different for Hispanic Heritage Month. We wanted to get into our research, into our let's explore the facts, the trends.
Give me the stats and the facts.
Yeah, and really highlighting Latin music. I think that for me, as being somebody outside of that community, is really kind of like what we talked about with Dara, is like the overall vibe of Latin music, the carefree, the rhythm and the drums, the energy, the spice, just makes me feel so alive.
It's very excitable.
Yeah.
And it depends on what type of music you're listening to, because we're all over the map, really.
Right.
Obviously, when we say that, we're not talking about Vicente Fernandez. But yeah, we're mostly going to get into talking about women in music.
Yeah, because we talk about the men enough. That's the whole thing. In Latin music, it's very male dominated. And I think that we're luckily in a time now where we're seeing a surge of way more Latin female artists. But we could sit here and talk about the Bad Bunny and the Peso Pluma and the Malawan and
who are all great.
J Balvin.
Yeah. And we're not taking that away from them. We're not taking their talent away from them.
No, you guys know I love me some Benito.
But the focus of today is to highlight some of the female artists maybe some of you know, and maybe some of you do not know.
Yeah. I feel like the feelers are cooler than me though, so they honestly could know them. Also, when I was doing research, there were so many up and coming artists that I have literally never heard of. There was an entire list of 25 Latin artists that you need to know now. They're basically on their come up. I literally only knew 2 of them out of a list of 25.
Okay.
So it's on the rise. I think that the ones that we're talking about today, besides one, I feel are, maybe I wouldn't say household names, but most people know who they are.
Yeah.
Yeah. But there's so many artists that are coming up, and I'm like, wow, this is a really exciting time.
I can appreciate that. I'm here for it.
So let's dive in. I've just really been in maybe it's because we're in Virgo season. I'm just really here to do some research.
You're supposed to be doing research.
If you weren't gonna say that, I was gonna say that. Yeah, it was fun to clickety clack and just look things up and like, where did this come from and what's the history?
Oh yeah, I should have clickety clack on my MacBook Air because this bitch spilled half of a latte on her keyboard. I made a joke, as I do, and she was elsewhere. So we were texting back and forth. It's like at some point you think we would get sick of talking to each other, but clearly no. And so I had made a joke about, I think it was like when I was talking about when Sabrina, just to bring it back, was talking about her Lord forgot her gay awakening.
Yes.
Was it during then?
And you had sent me you sent me a Grinch meme, a Grinch gif.
Oh, it was when you had made plans for something, right?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Done with me. I can't cancel it again.
Yes, and I literally spilled my latte on my laptop. My latte.
Yeah, but there was a lot of clicky clackies, and we got lots of information to share. So let's get into it.
Let's get into it. So, as we said, I feel like we're living in a time where Latin music is just popping off. Very reminiscent of the late 90s, early 2000s.
We are in our early O's reprisal.
Right. Yeah. It's just exciting to see Latin communities and different genres of Latin music gaining a lot more recognition. 2023 was one of the biggest years for Latin music, seeing over 20 acts at Coachella, at which Bad Bunny, of course, headlined. And we saw iconic performances from women like Becky G and Rosalia.
20 is a lot for Coachella.
It is. It was the most ever in a single year. The first ever headliner was, and they're not even like a Latin band, it was Rage Against the Machine. The lead singer is Mexican. So he was the first technically headliner back in 1999. And then after that, it wasn't until 2007.
Holy shit.
Yeah. And I think it was Shakira or somebody like that.
Well, good on you, Coachella Valley.
Yeah. So few and far between.
Also in 2023, a huge year of winnings. Papa es ganador. $5 if you know where that's from. At the Latin Grammys with Karol G winning Album of the Year. The second woman in history to win for a Música Urbana album. Mexico's Natalia Lafourcade won Record of the Year, breaking the record for most Latin Grammys in history. Forever, not just for a female artist, right? For everyone?
For everyone.
Incredible.
Why do you think Latin music in the last, I would say, 3 to 5 years has really blown up?
That's a good question. I think that streaming, while it's not necessarily new, it certainly has changed what people can find. And the fact that the algorithm can suggest something new to you based on your current listening has probably really encouraged people to just listen to all different types of new and different music that maybe they weren't listening to, 5-10 years ago. And the emotion, I think everything really shifted during and after the pandemic, where people are a little bit more adept as far as tapping into their emotions, figuring out what emotional intelligence means. There's so much emotion that comes with Latin music. So what we talked about with Britney, when you listen to music, it's going to evoke some sort of emotional reaction. And typically, I guess just speaking for me and my own personal experience, I choose music based on my mood.
Yeah.
Which I think
a lot of people do.
For the most part, that's what people do. So if like you're feeling like in your sad girl era, you're going to put on some sad breakup songs or what have you. If you're feeling happy, you want like pop and dancey music, things like this. But I think just the appreciation of music on a global scale.
Yeah.
In general.
Yeah. To your point, that's what I think, that people are just a lot more open-minded and accepting of different types of music that are in different languages. I mean, we saw it with like the pandemonium with K-pop.
Right.
Maybe 5-ish years back.
Right.
And how that kind of made its entrance to the US market.
That's not really died off, as I'm not really like in the K-pop world.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's died off. I just am not in that circle.
Right.
I think that they still have very much like loyal fans here in the US. I just don't see it talked about as much as it was.
I was going to say it's not a hot topic.
Yeah.
Anymore.
Well, there's a lot coming out about how they're treating K-pop stars. But I think that kind of lends to that. And like you said, like Spotify, sometimes I'll get like Spotify suggesting me songs in French. I'm like, okay, go off.
Yeah, that's true.
Or like songs in indigenous languages. I was listening to some Pacific Island lo-fi station the other day. And it was like in an indigenous language.
Okay.
With like beats and like house music behind it. I was like, I like this.
Yeah. What got suggested to me the other day? A song, and it was in a completely different language, and I can't remember if it was Arabic or not.
Ooh.
I don't know. Yeah. But I like it because they're like, oh, you like this vibe, right? So let me match this vibe on a global scale.
Right.
So maybe that's why. Just things getting suggested more.
Yeah. Music itself is its own language. So I don't think that you need to know every single word to every song in order to enjoy it and love it. I mean, look at me. I don't know what Bad Bunny's saying half of the time. But do I still love it and listen to it? Yes.
Right.
The research supports that. A big proponent of that is first Daddy Yankee becoming so popular in the 90s and early 2000s. But secondly, Despacito was a phenomenon that changed music and the crossover world forever.
You're right.
Despacito literally walked so that Titi Mi Pregunto could run. You know?
That's true. I never thought of it that way.
I don't think that I had ever seen a song in a different language. First of all, it was Justin Bieber. At that time, anything he touched was turning to gold.
Yes.
It was everywhere.
You're right. Oh, wow. That kind of left my mind, the Despacito era.
Yeah. And then ever since then, I feel like I've saw a lot of artists crossing over. I mean, Becky G was mostly singing in English and then has transitioned over to Spanish. There's a lot of collaboration with Spanish artists now in mainstream pop music where it wasn't so before.
Right.
And I really think that Despacito really just launched that.
Yeah, I kind of feel the same with Afrobeats. It's kind of having its own moment right now too.
Yeah.
With Thames.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So, after sharing our opinions, we do want to share a little bit of history, and we're going to make it fun and fresh because this is not a history class, but it's important to highlight and acknowledge.
It's good
so
to know
we can understand why we are in the place we are today.
Yeah.
And who led us there. So the earliest popular Latin American music in the United States came with the rumba in the early 1930s, followed by calypso in the mid 1940s, mambo in the late 1940s and early 1950s, the cha-cha-cha and charanga in the mid 1950s, bolero in the late 50s, and finally the boogaloo in the mid 1960s. I would love to speak to someone who experienced all these eras.
I know.
Which they would probably be. I mean,
do you want to have your Tata on the podcast?
Exactly. But I was going to say for them to actually remember even just some of these, they would have to be in their late 80s.
Yeah.
At this point. And just to highlight, of course, during that era, women lacked access to musical training since music programs were non-existent, and cultural norms discouraged female participation in music. Fast forward, however, to the late 90s and early O's, where there was an explosion like what you mentioned with Daddy Yankee, Jennifer Lopez, rest in peace, Shakira, Enrique Iglesias, sorry, that was messy, Enrique Iglesias, and Ricky Martin, who's been on tour for 17 years.
Congratulations, Ricky.
You guys, wait, sorry, one more quick side note.
Yeah.
We never said on the pod that we started watching Palm Beach. Is that what? No.
Yeah.
Palm Royale.
Palm Royale.
Palm
not
Royale
Palm Beach.
With Kristen Wiig.
Yes.
Who's
because I think that when we watched that,
amazing.
It was before the pod.
It may have been. Or around the time that we were starting.
Yeah.
No, because it was
like
March.
January, February. Oh, March. Okay, yeah.
I thought so.
Oh.
I could be messing up the timeline. Anyway, Ricky Martin is in Palm Royale opposite Kristen Wiig. He's so amazing. I didn't know he had acting chops like this.
He's a cutie patootie.
We love his character. It's so good.
We do.
Just a little tidbit about Ricky Martin, and that's on Apple TV if you want to watch.
Did you have any like experiences growing up?
God, Gasolina came out when we were what? Junior high?
Probably.
Yeah.
Junior high or like late elementary, something like that. Probably junior high.
And it was a catchy song, but I don't know, for the most part, I was just influenced by a lot of the music that my mom was listening to. And of course, even at that time, it's like you were still listening to music on CDs.
Yeah.
So you had to have the CD and a boombox to listen to it. Or the only time you were really listening to music was the radio in the car. And even then, my mom played her CDs. She had a 5-disc track changer installed in the trunk. And it was sick because it like wired it. So it was really high tech for the time because it wired itself to the front and you can just change the disc, obviously, from sitting in the driver's seat. So she had D'Angelo up in that bitch. She had Diary of Alicia Keys up in that bitch.
Hell yeah.
She had Outkast speaker box up in that bitch. Like classics. So that's really what I was listening to during, I think, that early O's era. There was a couple of J-Lo moments in there, but my mom has always been more of like a neo soul type of girl. So I actually didn't really grow up listening to a lot of Latin music at all, especially not in the house, you know.
Yeah.
Cleaning days were Anita Baker and Sade. So it's funny. We have a kind of opposite appreciation.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe because they just, when you grow up hearing a lot of stuff, the same stuff, maybe you gravitate towards something else because you're like, oh, I've already heard this, you know?
Yeah.
So I'm just going to listen to other things.
Yeah.
And my Nana would blast, they're considered oldies now, but at the time it was the Supremes.
Right.
So my mom grew up with that.
Yeah.
So it just progressed into kind of like similar tastes as she grew older.
Yeah.
And then influenced me.
Yeah.
But yeah, during that time, obviously I knew obviously I knew the songs, but it wasn't like I had a personal experience with any of them.
Okay. My first experience, so when I was in 7th grade, there was in my very, very tiny town, there was a corner shop, and whoever was there before, I don't remember if it was like a barber or something, went out of business. And there was a new person in town, which when you live in a town of 5,000 people, you know when there's somebody new around.
Yeah.
And I don't remember her ethnicity, but she opened a dance studio. And she specialized in hip hop and jazz and all of that. But her specialty for her own dance was belly dancing. So I remember some of the first lessons were like her putting on Shakira and being like, okay, before we can do all the other things, I need to teach you how to move your hips.
Yeah.
And pop your hips. And so that was my first, I have a very strong memory of just like listening to Shakira over and over and over and then just going to the beat of her song with my hips.
Wait, so were you in the classes or?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, and at first it was just me, girl. I was like, I'm the only black girl in this town. I'm going to join this hip hop class.
Yeah.
And then I made my two
besties.
Is hip-hop. I made my two middle school besties, Susie and Megan, join with me. I'm like, you're going to join this class with me.
Megs.
So then it was us three. But
they're brave.
That was like my first intro to Latin music. My mom loves, like, if I get married and have a wedding, I have to play Hips Don't Lie for Crystal.
Really?
Crystal's Corner.
Crystal's Corner. Welcome back to another round of Crystal's Corner.
Crystal can fuck up some Hips Don't Lie. She loves that song. It literally, I can't listen to that song and not think of my mom.
Oh my gosh.
So it's like, I will have to, if I ever get married, I have to play that.
Yeah. You know what? Fuck a wedding. Let's have a Shakira party.
Literally. Yeah. That was really like my first intro into it. And then of course, like being in middle school and like the Daddy Yankee of it all. And what was that one song? I'm gonna seriously embarrass myself. But it was like, are you ready? Oh
my gosh.
I don't remember. Obviously, I don't know the words and I can't remember the name of the song, but I remember that song being like huge in middle school. Even in my rural Wisconsin town. Yeah, I have no idea who it was. I couldn't even like.
Are you trying to guess the artist?
The artist or the name of the song.
Do it again.
No. Anyway, if you guys know the song, please let me know because I want to add it to my playlist.
No good. No good.
Yeah, but that was kind of like where my love for Latin music started, was really listening to Shakira, which is so cliche, but it just is what it is.
Yeah, I'm really trying to recollect, and remember. It probably wasn't even until later until I started listening to so many different types of music on my own.
Right.
And then I think that my preteen to teen to college years are lacking in so much, how do I say?
Como se dice?
Como se dice? Like musical depth or
Context?
like variety.
Variety. Okay.
I lacked in variety because I think I was heavily influenced by so many different things. Like in my preteen years, it was boy band pandemonium. I mean, first of all, my first concert ever was NSYNC.
Yeah. Period.
I mean, literally, I was 8 years old and I went to Claire's and I got hair glitter, hairspray, and fake glasses. It was an era. It was an era.
It is an era. Different times in our lives bring about different things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, getting back to the history, predominantly reggaeton music has been notoriously led by males and often deemed to be overly misogynistic in its lyrical themes and content. I mean, you don't really have to really dig into it that much to hear it or understand what we're saying. Women normalizing infidelity, celebrating infidelity, and yeah, it seems a little tone deaf in a region where violence against women is already so common.
That's true.
And I can't necessarily speak to the politics of it all because I do not come from or have ever lived in a Latin country. So I don't know firsthand. So I can't really necessarily get into the Scooby-Doos of that. But yeah, that was from the New Feminist, where I'll link all of our research in the show notes.
Bringing it all the way back to the bar.
So while in the past, male support was essential for female artists really getting their glow up and their voice noticed and even landing on the charts. I mean, we can see it with Bad Bunny having a lot of features with women in his songs. Nati Natasha in particular had been around in the scene for like almost a decade, but it really took Bad Bunny having her on his songs to have her really blow up. The same thing with Ozuna and Karol G. That's how Karol G came to be. Not came to be, but
popped off a little more
because she was on a lot of Ozuna songs. But now we're seeing a shift where labels and artists in themselves are now seeking out a lot more a female duo collaboration. So we see this with Karol G and Becky G, Rosalia and Karol G have a song together. I mean, there's so many female artists that have songs together. Anita is pretty known for having a lot of features on her music. We're seeing a lot more of that being sought out, where at first it was more like you have to be on a man's song to get noticed.
Yeah.
So I think that's pretty fucking sick.
Yeah.
That we're at that kind of time.
It probably took a lot for some of these artists to even get to that point. So it's definitely something to celebrate. But there's still things happening. Wasn't it just like a year or two ago who got in trouble for like depicting women as dogs? There was a Latin artist that got in trouble for that.
Bitches?
In a music video.
Oh.
Like perras, like grody.
Ew.
Hey Siri. Which Latin artist depicted females as dogs in their music video? It was J Balvin.
Oh shit.
Depicting black women as dogs.
Ooh, that's
yeah,
gross.
2021.
Ew.
He's Colombian.
Yikes. I mean, case in point, what I was just saying.
And his apology was, "That's not who I am. I've always expressed tolerance, love, and inclusivity."
Huh? Tolerance.
It's crazy.
The word tolerance was a choice.
Maybe it didn't translate well.
Anyway.
Well, that speaks to that. So it's good to see that we're there, but like we're saying, it's still a long way to go.
Right. That was only 2021.
Literally just in 2021. Back to Shakira, actually.
We briefly touched on it, but I think that you can't really do an episode like this and not make nods to the greats of the past. Well, I'm still present. But.
Yes. Miss Hips Don't Lie herself. I mean, she's Colombian as well, no?
Mm-hmm.
She got started at such a young age. I mean, I think her first song got put out when she was under 20.
Yeah, I think she was like 17 or 18.
Yeah. she has been named by various media outlets as the greatest female Latin artist of all time, highlighting her 30-year career, which we just spoke to, and 15 Billboard #1 hits. So,
crossover, like not even just like on the Latin charts, global
charts. Interesting.
She's one of the only
I
female
just feel
artists
like
to do
everybody knows who Shakira is and what she does.
Yeah.
But I just feel like she's gotten to this stature so quietly.
Oh, yeah.
That's a surprising fact to me. We also wanted to acknowledge the late, great Selena Quintanilla, who would have been basically coming up around the same time as Shakira, right? As well as Jenny Rivera, who both tragically passed away way too young. Selena was murdered, and then Jenny Rivera, I guess you could speculate what happened there.
Yeah.
It was a plane crash, allegedly. The same way that Aaliyah passed.
Right.
Allegedly.
Like,
yeah, sure thing.
Yeah.
Kind of like how the ocean is swallowing up billionaires right now.
Right.
Kind of crazy.
It is a little bit. That's a whole different episode.
Oh, it is. But yeah, obviously speaking to where Shakira is now, highlighting some of the women who we've lost way too early on in their life and in their career, knowing that they probably would have been so pivotal, and who knows where we would have been now if we still had those two making music.
Yeah.
Jenny Rivera's story, obviously their stories are both sad, but Jenny's story is like particularly heartbreaking.
Yeah. Selena would be in her 50s right now.
Yeah.
If she was still with us. And she is an inspiration to a lot of Latina artists. Becky G talks about Selena all the time. Stevie, who we're going to talk about a little bit more. Camila Cabello. There are so many artists. Cardi B even is like, I fucking love Selena.
Yeah, because Cardi B's Dominican.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that she has inspired so many artists who are now of age and using their platforms. So I think that she really, in our country, was like a forerunner for what it could look like to represent your culture in popular music.
Yes, especially considering Selena and Becky G did like a flip-flop, right? So Becky G started singing in English and then later started to sing in Spanish, whereas Selena was essentially forced to speak in Spanish because her only audience would have been people in Mexico or who spoke Spanish.
Yeah.
Even though her native language and her first language she ever spoke was English because she grew up in Texas.
Yeah.
In the United States of America.
Yeah.
So it's so interesting to see how the
yeah.
flip-flop.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. Which brings us into the main meat of the episode. An hour in, but we don't have the time to highlight all the people that we would love to highlight.
Right.
Like I said, even when I was doing research, I came across so many new artists that I'm like, wow, I'm gonna take note of her and her and her and her. But we did just want to like briefly mention some people who are like really popping off in a great way. I love Young Miko. I have such a crush on her. She's one of the first openly lesbian Latina artists. She is more in the like trap reggaeton genre, and she's never had a song where you don't know that she's talking about or to a woman. Like, you know how some people are queer but their songs are still very gender normalized?
Yeah.
Hers are not. Like, you know that she's talking about women in all of her songs.
Wow.
Yes, which is a big statement.
It is. It is. Because you can alienate a lot of your, I guess, more traditional listeners that way. Especially considering where she comes from and her home country and all that. How interesting. Okay. Yeah. Anita, who was a new person for me as well. Like I talked about in the Britney episode, I'm really trying to get back on my music game in general. So I'm starting back up slowly, getting used to it. I was in my podcast era for a long time, which I still am.
Yeah.
So I wanted to bring up Anita, again, someone who's new for me, and brings, per the note in full caps, bisexual energy. You can tell this is a Christina note. Bisexual energy. First Brazilian woman to break into the U.S. market, go off, had her first hit in 2013 in Brazil, the first Latin solo female artist to top the Spotify Global Daily Chart, and has collaborated with huge artists like Madonna, Snoop Dogg, and who we shall not name, J Balvin.
Yeah. Oof. I guess he's canceled for me.
Forgiveness.
And then, of course, we wanted to focus on the US, Mexico, and Latin America in this particular episode, but I don't want to negate Rosalia, who is from Spain, just because she's so groundbreaking in the way that she's mixing flamenco with electro pop, R&B, and just how innovative and creative that she is. I mean, she's a Libra and it shows. She's just very marches to the beat of her own drum. Period. Very what's the word I'm searching for?
Unique.
Unique, yeah, but just very, very Gen Z, I guess, in the sense of does not subscribe to fucking anything. I don't know a box. You can't put me one because I don't know what the fuck that is.
Yeah.
Like she's just
expressive.
in her own. Yeah, she's just very much in her own lane.
And she carved it out.
She did. She's carving.
She's giving us an experiment.
Her Motomami World Tour was one of the highest grossing tours of 2022, competing with Bad Bunny's World's Hottest Tour,
which we just talked about recently with Dara.
Yes.
Interesting. I didn't know that it was competing with that one. So what's interesting is there's certain things that you see on socials, right?
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the time within just females in general, women in general, female artists and female musicians, they're so focused on what they do outside of their creative space, who they're talking to, who they're dating, who they're engaged to, who they're married to, whatever, right? I knew that about Rosalia, not this tour fact. And I wish I would have known the fact about
just tour. About her dating life?
Yeah. I didn't sign up to learn about her personal life. Like, I would have loved to have known that part.
Yeah, which that was like a heartbreaking moment in history when her and Rao broke up. But now I'm kind of like, well, good, because it seems like he was not very open-minded and accepting of her sexuality.
Right.
Because she went on after that to date Hunter Schafer, and she's connected to people in the K-pop industry. She apparently is like really good friends with Kylie Jenner. She's just like well connected.
Like I say, bebopping around town.
She is bebopping.
She's just bebopping.
Yeah, and I just love hearing her speak because I love Spanish accents.
Oh, yeah. Spanish is like one of the most romantic languages in the world. Yes. So let's get into some of the ladies that we will be focusing on the most, which we've mentioned already. Number one being Miss Becky G.
Yeah.
Now,
which she's like a California girl like you, so I would love to. Oh,
yes. Yeah. I would love to know more about her history, but I know that her very first song, you guys, these notes are making me laugh, you guys. The way that they're written is like I'm reading in the voice.
Yes, because I take notes in the way that I talk.
Yes, her verbatim. Her rebirth. How did she go from singing in the shower to the music she is releasing now? And touching on self-abandonment of her culture, and did not feel like when she sang in English, it was a true representation of who she was. So a little bit more about Becky G is that she is native to Los Angeles, as we talked about. She is second generation. All four of her grandparents immigrated here from Mexico. Was, air quotes here, discovered at the age of 11 by Dr. Luke, when she did a cover of Jay-Z's Otis, dedicated the song We Are Mexico to Donald J. Trump, the worst orange man of all time, has been very vocal, and Oompa Loompas are, honestly, I'm not going to put anything on Oompa Loompas. Honestly, they're really helpful people.
Yeah. So they didn't ask for their fate,
You're right. Willy Wonka took them bitches and he's like, you work for me now.
Yes, exactly.
Give me them cocoa nibs, cacaos.
Yeah, he literally Columbused them hoes.
You're right.
He kind of did.
Gene Wilder, I'm coming for your ass. Just kidding. Has been very vocal about her political beliefs and has encouraged her community to vote. Also is a strong ally of DACA and raising awareness. She says, I always say, this is a quote from Becky G, I always say, I'm the 200%. 100% Latina, just as I am 100% American. I should not have to divide myself to live in both worlds. Period. My exact sentiment.
Yeah.
I did not choose to be born as a Mexican American. I was born as a Mexican American. So that being what it is, gives you the opportunity to define it however you wish. You can be like the Becky G's who feel like I need to sing in Spanish because that is my whole being and my whole presence. But I can also sing in English, right? You can have an experience like what we talked about with Pam, where someone negates your ethnicity, someone negates your culture because you don't speak the native language. It gives the scene. We're too Mexicans for the Americans. We're not American enough for the Americans. What is it? When they're in the car, it's Abraham, Selena, and AB.
I don't know what he says after that.
We're not Mexican enough for the Mexicans. We're not American enough for the Americans. It's exhausting.
Oh, yeah. It's exhausting.
It's exhausting. Abraham.
It is.
It is Abraham.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what, I'm here for that.
Yeah.
I didn't realize she said that, but I agree. I am 200%. I'm going to take that.
I like that.
I'm going to take that.
We should like make merch of that. I probably would have to get her permission. But
a little.
Yeah, it's just really interesting to me. She, along the same lines of Selena, had to learn Spanish to sing her songs in Spanish. Like she obviously, her grandparents all speak Spanish, and so she knows Spanish, but she was not like fluent.
Right. You can get by.
It's still her second language.
Yes.
Yeah. She had a slow rise, right? Because I remember, when was that? Singing in the shower. Was that when we were like early college?
Was it, or high school?
No, because she's our age. Oh, wait, but she was pretty young. She was young.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say I'm not a fan of Becky G. I like her newer music.
2014 college.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, and I was just very much into different music at that time.
Right.
I was not down with the pop girlies like I am now. And so I just didn't really take her as seriously. And it really wasn't until she started releasing her music in Spanish, I was like, this is Becky G.
Right. I think because she popped off for Shower.
Yeah.
And they went so hard on marketing that song.
Yeah.
And honestly, it's not a very good song.
For that time, do you think it was, or not even for that time?
For 2014?
We were in a completely different era.
Not really. Yeah.
That was
don't
in the
ask
era
me during
of
that
like,
time.
Right. That was when Drake was popping off. That was like, honestly.
You were listening to a lot of Big Sean.
I was listening to a lot of Big Sean.
Bryson Tiller.
Yeah. That's like when I started getting into Kehlani.
I mean, girl.
In 2014, we know what we were doing in 2014.
Don't ask.
She headlined Coachella, which was pretty huge. She brought out Karol G, who had headlined the year before. And then Mommy, that's what got me into Becky G.
Okay.
And it was like that vengeance. It kind of reminds me of, what's that one Selena song that I love? Just like very much like, you thought that you were going to treat me this way and get me back. And basically, you're going to get your karma. And then she takes him back.
Oh, yeah. That was a tough time for all of us in the community.
Becky
now.
Wishing her the best. I think that she's great. I think that she does a lot for the community and is a great example for other Mexican American girlies.
Just encouraging our community to vote at all. That's a lot already.
Right. And I think that she has like a very loyal fan base because she is from LA. Speaking of, we did want to highlight Karol G, because when I think of Latina woman in music, I think of Karol G. If you eliminate the greats.
Yeah.
Right? Like, who's hot right now? Karol G.
Yeah, that's true.
She's everywhere. She's everywhere. She's doing big things. I think she's like either going on or just came off of a world tour. Her music is blowing up not just in America and Latin America, but all over the world. It's really just a testament to her talent. And like I was saying before, you don't need to know a language to know what somebody's talking about.
It's true. Absolutely.
I can listen to her music and it's more about the feeling, the mood, the inspiration that I get from Karol G's music. I would say she's a powerhouse. There has never been a woman as successful in the música urbana and reggaeton genre. It really is just men up in that bitch that are running the reggaeton community.
Interesting.
It's really just her. And now coming up recently, Young Miko is really all that there are for women in that category. She touches on themes that are different to the expectations expressed about women in Latin music. In her song with Shakira, TQG, they literally laugh in the face of men who have tried to suppress them and take them for granted. She's seen as the Cardi B of Latin music, and headlined Coachella in 2022. And ever since then, she's just a rising star.
She's very impressive. If I take one thing away from this episode, is that I need to be paying more attention. I just don't be knowing. You know? When you have a kid, you're just out of the loop of a lot of shit. I can't keep up with mainstream stuff a lot of the time.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering what's in like next hottest toy.
Yeah.
You know, what's Miss Rachel doing tomorrow? Maybe that's part of it. Is that coming back into like my individuality?
Yeah.
It's really hard to do in the first several years of your child's life because they literally depend on you to survive.
Yeah.
So I don't have time to look up like all these new artists. Like the second I get to myself, I'm doom scrolling and I'm passing the fuck out.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what it is. I'm coming to the realization that whatever time I do have to myself now, that I can dedicate a couple of those moments to like looking up new music and really paying attention to some of the stuff that I enjoy doing. Okay. Next up is, I do know her. Surprise, surprise. Miss Caliuchis, who, speaking of being a mama, just became a mama herself. Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
And looking fine as hell.
For real. Oh my God.
So cute. I love this fun fact. Born Carly Marina Loaiza in Virginia, she was raised in her parents' native Colombia before violence forced them to flee back to the US in the year 2000. She was a first chair. Okay, first
This
chair
bitch is
in
musical.
jazz band where she played saxophone and piano but skipped school a lot, which got her kicked out of her house by her parents, and she lived in her car for a while. Wow, I did not know any of this about Kelly. First of all, first chair in jazz, that's a coveted seat, girl.
That's honestly, that's not even just like, oh yeah, she played the saxophone. No, bitch, she was first chair.
Yeah. If you know, you
In
know.
jazz band.
If you know, you know.
Jazz band is hard to get into. They don't just let any bitch into that.
No. You got to be soulful with that sax.
Mhm.
You got to have lungs.
You gotta be soulful with that
You got to be kind of
sax.
soulful with that sax. After reconciling with her family, she released Drunken Babble in 2012 from her bedroom, and it caught the attention of Snoop Dogg. Of course it is, because Snoop Dogg has 25 different versions of himself. I swear to God, that man's everywhere. I don't know how he does it.
I don't either.
If I believed in cloning, he is
Shut the fuck up.
100%.
I was just gonna say, is Snoop Dogg cloned? Is he a clone?
He's got to be.
I can so see him being one of those people who was like, yes, sign me up for science. Clone me.
Yeah.
I would love to get some more shit done. That seems like something Snoop Dogg would do.
And I think he did it.
Conspiracy.
That person and people, the Snoops are snooping.
Yeah.
And as well as Tyler, the Creator.
My fave.
He's precious. Were you with me the time that we saw him at the Melrose Flea Market, or was that not you?
I feel like I would remember that. I think I would have peed my pants. I think I would have ran up to that man and gotten fucking bitch slapped in the face.
Because I think that we were there together. It had to have been somebody, because we agreed not to go up to him.
Oh, maybe.
Because he looked really bothered, and a lot of people were bothering him. Like walking up to him.
I could see that. I could see that.
We were staring really hard, though.
Who else would it have been?
Right, I don't know.
I have that memory. You know where the steps are when you're like going to the bathroom? He was over there. He was hanging out over there.
Yeah.
And he was like sweaty as fuck.
Anyway, Kali Uchis is a nickname from her dad, meaning you are your own savior. She mixes soul, R&B, and reggaeton, and sounds from her native country of Colombia. And her songs are in Spanglish. She is the first female Latin artist to reach 1 billion Spotify streams. Holy shit. Confident and soulful female empowering anthems. Kind of like if Lana Del Rey and Amy Winehouse had a Colombian baby. Is that your own personal note?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that's how I really discovered Kali Uchis, because I was really into Odd Future. And it was kind of, her first album was kind of coming up in that time where Odd Future was huge.
Yeah.
And that's how he found her. And then would started bringing her on tour. She's collaborated with Sid and with Don Tolliver. He has a very simple Steve
Lacey.
Yes. Thank you. I'm like, why can I not think of his name right now? Yeah, she's talented. So I'm not saying that she was riding on the coattails of anybody. I think that it just gained her a massive audience and massive following quickly because she was featuring on all of the members of Odd Future's projects.
Right.
And so it just kind of naturally became like, oh, she's with the crew.
Yeah. Speaking of crossovers, that brings you a whole new... People who are listening to Odd Future probably wouldn't have listened to Kali Uchis on their own.
Right.
I love that.
Right.
Okay.
And I think that is why she's so like well known in the like R&B space and in the Black community. She's bringing something different, a little more soulful, spiritual, tapped in, like the
ethereal.
Very ethereal. I think that her music is just so important and needed. Yeah. And a lot of her songs are on my manifestation playlist. I listened to the shit out of Telepathy when that song came out, so much so that my roommate is like, can you please listen to something else?
And you're like,
no,
you can't.
I will not be doing that. She just possesses this magic and this strong femininity that does remind me of Amy Winehouse.
Okay.
That like, you're not gonna fuck with me.
Probably not. I wouldn't.
I'm literally unfuckwithable.
Yeah.
Yeah. She also does a lot of charity and things for her home country.
Aww.
So at a lot of her concerts, you can donate directly.
Oh.
She will donate proceeds. She did a music video in her hometown that she grew up in.
Wow.
And then donated a chunk of the streaming proceeds back to the town. So she's just very all about uplifting her community and showing that, look, like I lived in my fucking car. A little girl from Colombia. I lived in my car and all I wanted to do was make music and I did it.
That's so interesting because we learned that about Pam, that she was born in the U.S. and then moved back to Mexico City. And this is very similar to Callie, who was born in the U.S. also in Virginia and then moved back to her home country.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And had a very rough upbringing when they were living in Colombia. She was having to, instead of go to school, her dad would put her to work because the family needed money.
Yeah. And that probably translated over when they had to move back to the U.S. She's like, school. She's like, I can make a living at this bitch.
She came from nothing and had no money, so she has a lot of fear and control around being broke again. I'm sure living in your car also adds to that.
Yeah.
So she said that in recent years, when she first was blowing up, she was buying houses and cars and all the designer things and doing all of that. And she said that it like really took a lot of time and a lot of work to not be in that survival mode and that panic of like, this all could go away.
Right. She has survivor's guilt or financial trauma.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay, go off, Callie.
And then we're both really excited to highlight the next person,
never least,
because she is one of Danie's daughter's favorite artists. It's Stevie.
Stevie.
And we just learned that she's actually from very close to us, like literally an hour away.
Yeah, we could drive there right now.
Yeah, she's from Beaumont, California. Hey, sister. Her real name is Sarah Silva. She got her start on a reality singing TV show, La Academia Kids, when she was 11. And they saw that she had a lot of talent. She got a lot of high praise. I don't think that she won, but I think that she got very far. I'm not really sure how the show works. I think it's like a kids American Idol type of situation.
Yeah, I've never heard of that show. That's what it sounds like.
Yeah. After the show, she started a YouTube channel. And that's where she's grown most of her following over the last 10 years because she's now 21. So I started posting covers on YouTube of popular Mexican songs, Tejano songs. And she's grown from there very organically. Honestly, she doesn't have any big names behind her.
No.
I think that she's on a very small label. Like it's really just blood, sweat, tears, and touring.
YouTube. Love that. Yeah, she's really young. I think when we first started listening to her was just last year, so she had barely turned 20.
Yeah.
So that can go by really fast. I mean, we forget how old YouTube is, but it's old.
Yeah. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, Rolling Stone has dubbed her as the female artist who's carrying on Selena's legacy as the new face of cumbia.
Wow.
She fuses together cumbia and música mexicana. She released her first full album called Cumbialicious. Cumbialicious in 2023 that has garnered high critical acclaim. And at South by Southwest 2023, she won the Gralke Prize for Developing U.S. Act and was the first Latin artist to ever win this honor. Past winners of this award include Leon Bridges, Haim, and Anderson .Paak. Her most popular song and the leading single off of her album, El Paso, is about traversing long distances to meet a soulmate by the star in El Paso's Franklin Mountains. This song in general is very reminiscent of Selena and her style. So this song gives a lot of Selena energy, but I would even argue that the entire album.
Oh, yeah. It's so nostalgic and so reminiscent of Selena's style without it being Selena.
Yes.
So it's really interesting how she's able to take that influence and still twist it and make it her own.
Because it is very much like, you don't think of this being like, oh, she's trying to be Selena.
Never. No.
It's very STV, but it's carrying her legacy. Like Rolling Stone said it better than I could.
Mm-hmm.
And a quote from Stevie, she said, I really do believe in manifesting because everything I've put out and everything I've said I wanted has come to life little by little.
Y'all, she does small shows all over Southern California and then, of course, Texas, where Tejano music is very, very popular.
Yeah. She's popping off in Texas. Like anytime she releases her dates, she'll have 10 Texas dates and then 3 California dates.
Yeah. And it's funny because she's from California, but obviously it's like people have different tastes in different music. So,
yeah.
But yeah, she's always throwing like little shows here and there in Southern California. And we wanted to go for some time, but we are old and literally 10 years older than her, 11. And going to those small venues, it's hard for us now.
Speak for yourself.
To stand
What do you
up.
mean?
To stand.
Seriously, you're going to say that you don't want to stand for an hour and a half?
No. And the crowds. And just think about it. If you go in there and you're cramped up like a sardine.
Do you think it's like that?
I think they're small. It's giving Troubadour.
Oh, okay.
Which I would go if I could be in the upstairs of Troubadour. I need elbow space.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah. Oh,
I can stand next to people. I can stand for an hour. That's not that big of a deal. But like the lack of air would do it in for me.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not speaking to the fact that she can't sell out like a big space. I think it's exactly where she's at in her career. Obviously, she's going to play small spaces.
Yeah.
That and just scheduling, always. And the fact that I would love to take my daughter, but
venues like that too are kind of hard because how is she going to see you? She'd have to sit on your shoulders the entire time. And
then I have to be all the way in the back. Yeah, girl. That's a solid 36-pound baby. That's the heaviest 36 pounds I think I ever lifted up. It's a different type of 36 pounds. You think, oh, 36, no problem, right?
Right.
No, it's stock.
It's, yeah.
Anyway, we love STV.
She's already on our playlist.
She's already on her. Yeah, Como Yo is already on the playlist. But El Paso is good. And she actually introduced me to a male artist who I had no idea who he was. And his name is Cuco. And he's great too.
Yes, Cuco. Also, Danny's daughter's favorite is Miami.
Oh my gosh. Miami. Yeah, she hasn't really asked me in a while to play it.
Yeah. It was a phase maybe this time last year, huh?
Yeah, it was. Alexa, play Miami by Stevie. Oh, good times. That's a solid song on off that album. It's no skips.
Yeah.
Literally.
Her whole album is really good. I'm really excited to see like what's next for Stevie because she is more up and coming on the rise, but she has a lot of acclaim from people in the industry. So
artist on the rise.
Yeah, I'm really excited. It's her whole vibe is just so dreamy. I wonder if she's a Pisces because she's like very dreamy, very cowgirl Y2K, like stage wardrobe and stuff. It's good, y'all. So if you haven't heard of a Stevie, please check her out. She's amazing.
Aquarius.
That was the last one I was gonna guess for her.
February 4th.
Wow. Okay. That is all.
That's all she wrote.
We just wanted to do this little deep dive for you. We each kind of choose. You guys, this is too real. We've been recording since 4:30 p.m.
with the internet outage in between.
Oh yeah,
and a whole fucking shenan. And
we each chose a topic. So I chose to talk about music, and Danny's going to be talking about art. Yep. So that's going to be the next installment. But we kind of wanted to experiment with these, like more of a deep dive type of episode, and then just kind of talking about the significance.
Right, because we could sit here all day and say, oh, I love Stevie and I love Caliuchis, but it's Hispanic Heritage Month, honoring some of the things that maybe you didn't know about these artists, especially if you've not heard of them or, you know, you passively listen to them when they show up on your Spotify Discover Weekly. So it's always good to, I think, humanize artists. And remember that they are people with different stories and stories that define the music that they put out and the artistry that they put out. So we hope you guys enjoyed.
Yeah, and I think that, like we've been saying, we're living in a time now where like women really are able to shine in this space. And I think that specifically Hispanic women have, because of the cultural norms, been silenced for a while, and we're not given the access into certain areas, one of them being music. And so I think that now it's like really a time of taking their power back. Because when I think of Hispanic culture, it is very feminine. The romance, the power,
even the language is gendered.
Yeah, right. And so
certain words are feminine.
Yeah, I think that all of these women that we've highlighted just have a type of strength in their own way. And it's just an attitude of we're not going to go quietly. And now that we're basically given the access because of how the state of music has changed and how really anybody can show up to the table at any time, any means necessary, they're like, well, no, now you are going to listen to me and my story. And I don't need a man to bring me to a certain point of my career. And I think that we can see that with all of these women in particular.
It's feeling like a revolution.
Yes, it is. It is a revolution. We would love to know, who are your favorite artists, whether they're up and coming. Who did we not mention that you think we should have mentioned in our little Mount Rushmore of Latin music?
Oh, cutesy.
Of Latin women. Yeah.
And we're going to, like we said earlier in the episode, create a whole playlist for Hispanic Heritage Month. And we're going to cumbia our way through September and October.
Absolutely. So thank you for listening this far. If you have gotten to the end, please comment with the little flamenco dancer emoji. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube. Leave us a little comment. Let us know, like Danie said, who are your favorite artists, male or female. And follow us on Instagram at empathsanonpod.
Woohoo!
We will be doing this all month, so you have 2 more episodes after this in our Hispanic Heritage Month series. We hope you guys enjoy it. We'd love to hear your feedback. And until next week, goodbye.
Adios.